Hey y'all, this is Steve with Bad Possum. Today we're going to look at the Redcat Racing Everest 10, and as you'll notice, the shocks on this are very much laid down. This gives it a lot of flex. I mean, this is really good articulation in this vehicle. The only problem is it causes a lot of chassis sway when you go to take off under a lot of torque. It'll really boost the chassis up. So what we're going to look at is the JDNRC Performance Hybrid chassis. I'm going to install this and we'll go through the build process on this. What this does, as you can see on our stock chassis, is very short with our laid down shocks. This chassis right here is very much extended out, so we can put our top shock mounts right here, which will extend to the point where they're just about vertical, and that should get rid of our chassis sway and flex. The JDNRC chassis does come with two struts, front and rear struts for stabilization, just to keep it a little bit more solid, and it comes with 4 of these shock spacers. What this is going to do, it's going to take our shock absorbers and move them to the outside of the struts. So we're going to just swap positions with the struts and the shocks will use these spacers to set it out from the chassis. The JDNRC chassis does come with a left and a right, and so you'd see the JDN letters as they appear. You have to make sure you put them on the right side because we do have holes that are different from the front and rear of this chassis. Anyways, let's get this build going. I've removed the body post and installed them in the correct position on the new chassis piece. I'm going to remove the upper chassis, the battery mount. Get this out of the way. And we'll be replacing these screws also with socket head screws. I'm now going to remove the lower strut mounts. I'm also going to replace these screws with socket head screws. Now we'll release the upper shock mounts. And there's our chassis part released. So we have everything still attached. I have the one side still stabilized so it holds everything together. What I'll do now is put our new chassis half on this side, and then we'll work on the other side. Alright, I'm going to place my chassis on the motor pad. We're going to reinstall the lower struts, and I'm going to stay in the middle position. I have replaced the Phillips screws with a socket head screw. You do have 2 choices of positions here. I'm not sure. I'll have to look and see what this might have, what kind of consequences, but I'm going to use the ones that match up to the lower at this point. Alright, getting back to it a few days later. I'm ready to put the new JDNRC chassis piece on the passenger side, and you can see I have replaced the 14 and 20 millimeter Phillips head screws with socket head screws. Now I'm going to remove the shocks, and we're going to switch the position on the shocks so the shock is on the outside of the strut. I'm going to go with the closest in on the frame at the very top. These shocks are kind of long. I'm trying to drop this down just a little bit. Let me tighten this up. Steve with Bad Possum. We've got it all together now, the JDNRC Performance Hybrid chassis on the Everest E10. And you can see we still have some good articulation out of it. And I took my shock spacers out to give it a little bit more of a droop and a little bit more play in the shocks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get her put back together. I've got a couple other modifications I need to do, but I want to thank Joseph for getting this to me. And I will link his video and his connection in with my video. So I really appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoy your Everest. There's different chassis that Joseph has too, but this is the one that I wanted to try, so I'm really pleased with it. Thank you very much. Steve with Bad Possum, out.